If you can still walk to your kitchen without holding the wall, pay close attention to what I'm about to say. Because in my years working with patients over 60, I've watched something happen over and over again. People lose the ability to walk independently. Not suddenly, not from a single event, but slowly, quietly, over months and years. And by the time they realize what's happening, the damage is already deep. I've seen this destroy people's quality of life for decades, and it didn't have to happen. Most people over 60 who come to me with tingling feet, burning sensations, or numbness believe one thing. They believe it's a normal part of aging. Their doctor told them so. Or the doctor handed them a prescription and moved on. And so they adjusted. They stopped dancing, they stopped gardening, they started holding walls, they started sleeping with a fan on their feet to manage the burning. And they called it getting older. This is not getting older. This is nerve damage. And it is progressing right now, silently, in millions of Americans who have no idea what's actually causing it. Stay with me, because what I'm about to share has the potential to completely change how you understand what's happening in your body. Let me describe something to you. Tell me if this sounds familiar. You wake up at 2 in the morning, not from a dream, from pain. Your feet are on fire, not metaphorically, a deep radiating burning that starts at the toes and moves up. You get up, you walk around, maybe you press your feet against the cool bathroom floor. It helps a little, and you think, maybe tomorrow will be better, but tomorrow is the same, and the month after that is the same. Or maybe it's not burning for you. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's the feeling that your feet are constantly asleep. That thick, unresponsive numbness that doesn't go away when you change positions. Maybe it's those sudden electric shock sensations, out of nowhere, like someone ran a current through your leg for a split second. Maybe you've noticed that you don't feel heat and cold the way you used to. You ran warm water over your hands and didn't know it was too hot until you looked down. And then there are the moments that genuinely frighten you. The moment you almost fell going down your front steps. The moment you stumbled in the grocery store and had to grab the shelf. The moment you realized you've started watching where you put your feet, every single step, because you don't fully trust them anymore. That's not getting older. That's your nervous system sending you distress signals. And those signals deserve to be taken seriously. In my years working with patients over 60, I've seen this pattern hundreds of times. Men and women who came to me frustrated, exhausted, and frankly, dismissed. They'd been to their primary care physician. They'd sat in that exam room for 10 minutes and come out with a prescription for gabapentin or Lyrica. And yes, those medications can reduce the sensation of pain, but here's what most doctors won't tell you in a 10-minute appointment. They don't stop the nerve damage. They mask it. The signal gets quieter, but the problem continues underneath. And in some cases, the long-term neurological effects of those medications make the underlying condition worse over time. I've had patients come to me after years on those drugs, more confused, more unsteady, with worse balance than when they started. They felt like they were managing. The pain was less, but the function was declining. And they didn't connect it because nobody told them there was a connection to make. But here's what makes this even more serious. And I want you to hear this clearly, because most people never receive this information at all. The damage to your nerves is not random. It has a mechanism. It has causes. And those causes are, in many cases, reversible, or at the very least, stoppable. The research on this is increasingly clear, but it rarely reaches the people who need it most. Your peripheral nerves, the nerves that run from your spine down through your legs, into your feet, your hands, your fingertips. They are like electrical cables running through the walls of a house. And like any electrical cable, what matters isn't just the wire itself, it's the insulation around it. That insulation is called myelin, a protective coating that wraps around each nerve fiber and allows the electrical signal to travel cleanly, accurately, at the right speed. When myelin is healthy, signals move the way they're supposed to. You feel pressure, you feel temperature, you feel exactly where your foot is on the ground, which is the foundation of balance and coordination. But when myelin deteriorates, when that protective coating starts to break down, the signals distort, they get corrupted. They arrive scrambled, and that's what you experience as burning, tingling, numbness, or electrical pain. The nerve isn't broken, the signal is leaking, like a cable with cracked insulation. The electricity is still there, but it's going in directions it shouldn't. Now here's the question that should be at the center of every conversation about peripheral neuropathy. and rarely is. Why is the myelin deteriorating in the first place? What is actually causing this breakdown? And this is where the research gets genuinely surprising, because the answer, in the majority of cases in people over 60, comes down to something shockingly preventable. It comes down to deficiency, specific, measurable, correctable deficiency. And the number one deficiency driving peripheral nerve damage in older adults is one that almost nobody over 60 is being tested for properly. Vitamin B12, specifically the methylated form called methylcobalamin, is the single most critical nutrient for myelin synthesis and maintenance. Without adequate B12, the body cannot produce or repair the protective coating around your nerves. This is not a fringe theory. This is basic clinical biochemistry. And yet, after the age of 60, the body's ability to absorb B12 through the digestive tract drops dramatically. The stomach produces less intrinsic factor, a protein needed to extract B12 from food. And for anyone taking metformin, one of the most commonly prescribed medications for blood sugar management, that absorption is blocked even further. Studies have shown that long-term metformin use reduces B12 levels in up to 30% of users. 30%. And these are people who are already at risk for neuropathy because of blood sugar issues. They are taking a medication that worsens the very condition it's supposed to help manage. This is the kind of information that doesn't make it into a routine 10-minute appointment, but it should. I want to share something with you for a moment. A patient, I'll call him David, came to me at 69 years old. He'd had type 2 diabetes for 11 years. He'd been on metformin the entire time. For the last 4 years, he'd also been on gabapentin for what his doctor called diabetic neuropathy. The burning in his feet had gotten worse year by year. His balance was deteriorating. He'd fallen twice in the past year. He was using a cane. When I reviewed his blood work, his B12 was critically low, not slightly low, critically deficient, and it had never been flagged. Nobody had connected his metformin use to his B12 depletion. Nobody had connected the B12 depletion to the nerve damage. They were treating the symptom, the pain, while the root of the problem went untouched. We addressed the deficiency. We supported his nervous system with the specific nutrients the research points to. Over the following months, the burning began to improve. Not overnight, but gradually. His balance stabilized. He told me 6 months later that he'd been able to walk around his neighborhood for the first time in 2 years. David's story is not unusual. I've seen versions of it more times than I can count. And what breaks my heart is how many people are living through exactly this right now, who believe there is nothing left to do. If what I'm sharing today is new to you, and I suspect it is, make sure you subscribe to this channel. I release critical health information for people over 60 every week. Information your doctor may not have time to share in a routine appointment. Hit the subscribe button below. It costs nothing, and it could be one of the most important health decisions you make today. Let me go deeper now, because vitamin B12 deficiency is one piece of this. But it's not the entire picture. The peripheral nervous system is under assault from multiple directions simultaneously, and most people, and unfortunately, most conventional medical approaches, address only one of them or none at all. The second major driver is oxidative stress. Think of your nerve cells like any other living tissue that requires energy to function and to repair itself. That energy production generates waste in the form of molecules called free radicals. Under normal circumstances, the body has antioxidant systems that neutralize these molecules before they do damage. But after decades of accumulation, after years of elevated blood sugar, chronic inflammation, and nutritional gaps, those antioxidant systems become overwhelmed, and free radical damage to nerve cells accelerates. There is a compound that researchers have studied extensively for exactly this problem: alpha-lipoic acid. What makes it unique among antioxidants is where it works. Most antioxidants operate in the watery or fatty compartments of cells. Alpha-lipoic acid works inside the mitochondria, the energy-producing engine of the nerve cell itself. It neutralizes oxidative damage at the source. Research published over several decades has consistently pointed to its role in supporting peripheral nerve function, and it remains one of the most studied natural compounds in this area. The third major driver is what I would call cellular starvation. Damaged nerve cells, even when they still have the raw materials to attempt repair, frequently lack the metabolic energy to actually do the work. A compound called acetyl L-carnitine plays a critical role here. It acts as a transporter. It carries fatty acids into the mitochondria so they can be converted into usable cellular energy. Think of it as the fuel delivery system for your nerve cells. When that system is working efficiently, damaged nerves have what they need to begin the regeneration process. Studies conducted in clinical settings have consistently found that acetyl L-carnitine supports nerve health in ways that purely symptomatic treatments do not. But we're not finished, because there are two more deficiencies that are nearly universal in people over 60 with nerve symptoms, and that are almost never discussed in the context of neuropathy. The first is vitamin D. Most people know vitamin D as a bone health nutrient. What is emerging in the research is that vitamin D plays a direct regulatory role in nerve function and inflammation. The majority of people over 60, especially during winter months, are significantly deficient, and that deficiency is now being linked in the literature to increase nerve sensitivity and pain amplification. The second is magnesium. Magnesium is involved in over 300 biological processes in the human body, including the regulation of the channels that nerve cells use to generate and transmit electrical signals. When magnesium is deficient, which it is in a large proportion of older adults, nerve cells become hyperexcitable. They fire more easily. They fire without provocation, and the result is exactly the kind of burning, tingling, and spontaneous pain that defines peripheral neuropathy. This isn't theoretical. This is published physiology, and most people suffering through these symptoms have never had their magnesium levels seriously evaluated. And finally, for those whose nerve damage is connected to blood sugar dysregulation, there is benfotiamine. This is a fat-soluble form of vitamin B1 that penetrates nerve tissue far more effectively than standard thiamine supplements. It has been studied specifically for its protective role against the type of nerve damage caused by elevated glucose. The damage that occurs not just in diagnosed diabetics, but in the enormous population of pre-diabetics who are walking around with elevated blood sugar and no diagnosis. In European clinical settings, benfotiamine has been studied for decades as a nerve protective compound. In the United States, most patients have never heard of it. I've put together a short presentation that goes much deeper into everything I've covered today. It includes specific approaches that I've seen work for patients in exactly this situation. The link is in the description below. Watch it when you have a quiet moment. I think it's going to answer a lot of questions you didn't even know you had. I want to talk to you now about what this condition actually does to a life. Because it's not just about feet. It's not just about a burning sensation at night. It's about everything that burning sensation takes from you. When you can't sleep, and I mean truly sleep, through the night without being woken by pain, everything suffers. Your cognitive function, your mood, your ability to tolerate discomfort, your immune resilience. Patients I've worked with describe months and years of fragmented sleep, of lying there in the dark with their feet uncovered because the weight of a sheet is unbearable. That level of sleep deprivation changes a person. It creates a kind of slow erosion of who they are. And then there is the social withdrawal. It happens quietly. You stop accepting dinner invitations because you're afraid of navigating an unfamiliar environment in the dark. You stop going to church because the parking lot is uneven. You stop attending your grandchild's recital because you can't sit for 2 hours in those chairs without your feet becoming unbearable. And one by one, the things that made you begin to disappear. There is a particular grief in that, a grief that people rarely talk about, because on the outside, they look fine. But inside, they are mourning the life they had, the independence, the spontaneity, the feeling of being someone who moves through the world without fear. I had patients who stopped telling their children how bad it had gotten because they didn't want to become a burden, because they had spent their whole lives being the strong one, the provider, the caregiver. And the idea of reversing that role was more painful than the physical pain itself. I've seen what that silence costs people. The research increasingly suggests, and this is important, that the peripheral nervous system retains a meaningful capacity for recovery. not always complete recovery, but meaningful, measurable improvement in sensation, comfort, balance, and function. When the deficiencies driving the damage are addressed, when the oxidative assault on nerve tissue is reduced, when the cellular energy systems are supported, the body has a remarkable capacity to respond. This is not a condition you have to simply accept. It is not a normal part of aging that you must endure in silence. You have been told it is. You have been handed a prescription and sent home. You have been dismissed, and I am telling you directly, that dismissal was not based on the full picture. You are not powerless here. Your body has an incredible capacity to respond when given the right support. And now you know something that most people your age will never learn. If today's video opened your eyes to something important, share it with someone you care about, because there are millions of people over 60 dealing with this silently, and they don't have to. The short presentation in the description goes even deeper. I highly recommend watching it when you have a quiet moment. Subscribe for more critical health information every week, and leave a comment below. What was the most surprising thing you learned today? I read every single one.